Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Lokir Felhart, the Krakenlord of Karond, has made his way to the shores of Lustria as he faces off against the Lizardmen. So we have Katam leading the Dark Elf forces, and we have Potato who'll be commanding the Lizardmen. So for the rest of the Dark Elf forces, we do have Dread Spears for that front line to kind of screen out these Chameleon Skinks as best they can. And the heavy hitters are going to be the Ravagers of Akarth, the Scourge Runner chariot, and another chariot on the other flank. Going to be doing quite a good work against the big dinos with their armor-piercing values. The Ravagers of Akarth do get poison on top of that. And then we have some Cold One Knights on the two flanks to help keep those Scourge Runners nice and safe. In the back, we do have some Shades who will be hidden for the time being with their stock ability, and we do have Sorceress of Fire going to be bringing Fireball and Burning Head to roast some pesky little skinks. And then take a little highlight on what Lokir Felhart has brought to the table today. For his kit, he is going to be bringing the Helm of the Kraken, who restores +4 hit points per second when he is in melee, plus a little bit of melee defense on top of that. He has the dreaded Duelist augment on top of that when he does get in melee, with some nice good targets, and Deadly Onslaught to increase his armor piercing and base weapon damage even more than it already is. And he has Merciless Slaver to give a little bit of leadership reduction to those around him. Now for the forces of the Lizardmen, we do have a pair of Pterodon Riders up in the sky, vanguarded up. They will have some poison and nice skirmishing as long as they are able to stay clear of those Shades. We have some Chameleon Skinks as well, vanguarded up. They will be a bit of a problem for the Dark Elves to really deal with. Shades really don't want to be wasting their ammo on this, and that is going to be the same as the Scourge Runner Chariots. They want to be saving those ammo for those big dinos. So there are going to be some to shoot at in this Lizardman army. So for the rest of the forces, we do have some Skink cohorts in that front line, going to be just kind of taking the charges and kind of just whittling things down as they can. But we do have two Solar Bastillodons going to be firing away at the oncoming Druki, and we'll have a Skink Chief in support as well with his Poison Skink Priest of Beasts, going to be bringing Transformation of Kadan as well as the Wysense Wild Form. We do have Krokgar. He is going to be on foot, keeping himself as a low profile here. He is going to be bringing his Hand of the Gods as well as the Swiftness of Itzel to give himself a little bit of speed and keep him out of any troublesome situations where he is stuck in melee. For the rest of the forces, we do have some more Skinks in the back with the cohort of Sotek, the Red-Crested Skinks Arawar, who is unbreakable to kind of keep things occupied. We have some Cold One Riders as well on the right flank here, and I do believe there's one I saw in the forest. There they are to kind of at least contend the Cold One Knights as best they can, but the Scourge Runners should keep them occupied and definitely want to stay clear of that for the most part. Let the Skirmishers do their work and those Solar Bastillodons. But that is going to be our armies for today, so let's get things underway as the armies do approach one another. The Sorceress of Fire just kind of baiting out some shots from these Chameleon Skinks, just trying to waste their ammo, but he's going to be pulling back to stay a little bit safer. These Cold One Knights taking some shots from those Solar Bastillodons straight to the face, as they're going to kind of try and use the forest for cover here, as they do avoid those Bastillodons as best that they can. And the Scourge Runners are going to be opening up, though, into these Pterodon Riders, peeling off models left and right. Nice little rock drop there, doing some nice damage to those Dread Spears. Once they see those Shades, though, they're probably going to wish they had saved those for them. As the Spears, I'm not going to be doing all that much, but here are the Shades just opening up into that Solar Bastillodon, and this is why those armor-piercing missiles are just so potent. As you can just see them just absolutely melting this Solar Bastillodon with each volley. It's going to be routing already. The Pharaoh Manticore from the Transformation of Kadan is going to go down, though. I'm going to be looking to be hunting for some of those Dark Elf forces, either getting on top of these Shades, for example, the Scourge Runner Chariots, or potentially Lokir or that Sorceress of Fire on top of that. Now you can see just how much damage these Cold Wind Knights have taken from that Solar Bastilla on fire so far. It is just getting absolutely melted from there, and the other ones are trying to catch out these Chameleon Skinks, but since they are engaged in melee, you can see that the Chameleon Skinks do poison, so they are getting poisoned right now, and the Cold Wind Knights are trading decently, but they are going to be wavering because there is that spear support as well. And you can see these Pterodon Riders just aren't up to the task of dealing with all of these troops here, even trying to single out the Sorceress of Fire. But yeah, they do get pushed off the field by Lokir and those Shades, who do, if you take a look, right now they are poisoned, but they do have fairly decent stats, so there are no slouches in melee. But the front line is actually going fairly well for the Lizardmen here. The cohort of Sotek able to push off the Dread Spears, but now we do have the Murderous Prowess is now popped, as the Cold Wind Knights do engage in that back line, and the Skink cohort with Javelins have used up the last of their ammo. They only do have a few volleys, but they are able to get those shots in, and now they will be committing to melee. Solar Bastillon has returned to the back, and the Cold Wind Knights, it may have been in their best interest to try and deal with that right now. You don't want that to be sticking around too long, though right now the shots are just going straight into the trees, and a Burning Head's going to be arcing its way straight on through the Skinks, doing a ton of damage there. Very nice cast, able to shatter those units and do some nice damage to those other ones, kind of freeing up those spears for the time being. And the Shades are now going to be turning their attention to this Solar Bastillodon, just wrecking it right now as it is just melting away its HP, routing this unit off. So the big hitters right now for the Lizardmen are starting to take some damage. However, they still are ahead in the balance of power, as the rest of the forces, those Cold Wind Knights, all the spears have really taken a beating, and the Scourge Runners are starting to use up the last of their ammo, while all these Chameleon Skinks have a ton of it left. The Skink Chief, though, getting caught out right there by those Shades as well. The Shades themselves have quite a bit of ammo, though Krockgar is going to be a bit of a problem for the rest of the forces. These Cold Wind Knights have attempted to do what I was kind of suggesting earlier on, trying getting rid of the Solar Bastillon, but they do get rampaged by all of these Chameleon Skinks just as they are able to push it off, and it may actually allow that unit to come back, and another nice Burning Head roasting through the last of those Skinks that those Dread Spears were facing. But otherwise, things going fairly decently. But oh, that was a beautiful Hand of the Gods, just sniping out the Sorceress of Fire. An excellent cast there at range, able to take care of that threat. And that is very, very nice for the Lizardmen, able to deal with that here and now. While there's a Priest is still active, able to get their last Frail Mana Core summon, as it was getting a little caught out in melee, but will be able to survive, because it is mixed in with that cohort of Sotek, who is unbreakable, so should be able to deal with the Shades and those Dread Spears, though having both of them there will definitely whittle their numbers down quite a bit. And so now that Feral Mana Core, having the Sorceress of Fire off the table, is now going to be focusing its attention on these armor-piercing missiles, getting on top of the Shades, trying to deal with them. Now the Scourge Runners is going to be coming into melee, trying to push them off. It is almost out of ammunition, so not really a whole lot of shots left to be using there. I think with just a shot or two left. But Lokir still at full health, as is Krockgar. So it might be a showdown of the lords in the end here, as the core of Sotek getting whittled down bit by bit, very low on HP. They do have 27 models left, but they do only have 600 HP and dropping. They are going to be, looks like, able to push off these Shades at least, and that is a lot of ammunition on these Shades. As you can see, they have 10 volleys left, and that's quite a bit of armor-piercing damage that can go either the way of Krockgar. I mean, any of the Skinks, even at this point, would be a nice target for them. As we do have some units returning, and we do have a Bastillodon in the back. The Solar Bastillodon is still up and running and firing away. Those Scourge Runners are going to be taking a lot of damage from that, as that is what it is going to be shooting at, and it still has 7 volleys left in its tank. Even though it is very, very low in ammo, there's nothing that's going to be able to shut it down at this point. The Shades are being pushed off, and these Shades aren't going to be able to get in range of that, as these Chameleon Skinks should be able to keep that pressured out of range, though it looks like they are going to be trying to get in. If we take a look at their range, you can see the firing arc right here. These Skinks should be able to keep that in, and if that Lizardman player is on top of things, he'll be able to pull out that Bastillodon even then. Though down is going that Skink Priest, as Lokir Fellheart has set its eyes on him. going to be routing off that Skink Chief Priest, but at this point the Skink Priest not going to really have any value left. It only has Wysan's Wild Form using up both of his, but man, Lokir is just getting beat down by Krokgar as he is just taking hit after hit. He does have Deadly Onslaught popped, but man, Krokgar is just taking Lokir down, and things are definitely looking very grim for the Dark Elves, as if we take a look at what they have left, they have some spears, Shades are going to be routing off, and these Scourge Runners as well going to be getting very, very low, are able to shatter the Skink Priest, but still Lokir is now going to be showing off his martial prowess against Krokgar, as he is able to trade well after those initial blows, as he is able to actually, it is very close on both sides with Lokir Felheart. Can he rout off Krokgar? He is able to rout off these Chameleon Skinks, so the poison is going to be at least gone from this fight, and so do the Skink cohort. So once again, now it is just down to Krokgar and Lokir, as that Lizardmen support very briefly engaged here. Now these Chameleon Skinks really should have been firing into this engagement here, as Lokir Felheart does have a little bit of regen when he is in melee, and he is able to actually beat Krokgar, forcing him to rout. Hasn't able to kill him outright just yet. Balance of Power actually now back to the middle, even though it was very, very close to actually becoming army losses, as that Solar Bastildon is going to continue to use its last of its armor ammunition firing in. And in comes the last for the melee engagement here. We still do have a Skink Chief who can continue to kind of poke away at Lokir with its shots. But yeah, at this point, I don't know if the Lizardmen have the DPS. I mean, Krokgar needs to get back in melee, but I don't know if he can really necessarily afford it, because Lokir is still sitting pretty, but he needs to commit to that engagement now, as does the Bastildon. They need to commit now, because the longer they wait, the worse it's going to get, because he's just going to probably be able to out-heal, because if we take a look at his HP, we can see that it is continually going up right now. It's at 1450. Some shots are going to be raining in, so he is slowly losing HP bit by bit. And now that the troops have routed, he will stop regenerating, because it is only when he is in melee when he does get that regen. But he is now going to be focusing his attention on to Krokgar. Lots of poison, though, going the way. He does use... Krokgar does use the swiftness of Itzel, giving himself a little bit of bonus speed, but as he does engage in melee, he does rout once again, and he actually dies there. A few shots must have graced him as the Bastildon, but the Bastildon is going to rout as soon as he gets in melee with Lokir, and that Skink Chief is going to continue to poke away. But at this point, I mean, like, Krokgar's gone. It's just down to the Skink Chief, and the Skink Chief is not going to be able to contend with Lokir. He needs to kind of keep away from him, but at this point he really can't, as he is the sole surviving unit left, and he will rout. And what is left for the Lizardmen here? There's got to be something left. We do have some Chameleon Skinks coming back, because it still says the balance of power is fairly even, but even if the Chameleon Skinks use up, I mean, they're so close to just routing from exhaustion at this point. Lokir is going to continue to chase off that Skink Chief. He won't be getting any of his regenerating. He's stuck at 543 until he gets back into melee. And yeah, it's just down to Chameleon Skinks are holding the balance of power as close as it is. C is able to now shatter that Skink Chief. And if the Chameleon Skinks can focus their last remaining shots on to Lokir, that might be enough to finish him off, but they are so low themselves. And Lokir is just going to be dodging the shots as best he can on that approach, while the Chameleon Skinks will kind of retreat, trying to kite away in this late game, as the last of their ammunition is going to slowly be spent, and they can't afford to shoot at anything other than Lokir, because if they waste all of their ammo on that Dread Spears, Lokir is just going to be able to easily tank the damage output that they can have in melee. And I mean, yeah, at that point it's just going to be curtains for them if they can't kill Lokir. They should actually be able to beat the spears, but I think right now they're kind of forced to use their ammunition on the spears, as here comes a little bit of surprise in the back. The Coldwood Knights do return and get a nice little charge off onto Lokir. And at this point, I think they need to avoid... Well, actually, they are going to be able to rout these Dread Spears, but the last of the ammunition is being used on them. And the Coldwood Riders do shatter, and army losses take it. And the Dark Elves scrap it back, and they take the game. very nice ending there. Kind of surprised that Krokgar wasn't able to contend with Lokir. It definitely looked very promising initially when they were engaged in one-on-one. He got some nice hits off of Lokir, taking him down very, very quickly, but then Lokir just took control of that battle and returned the favor tenfold, able to beat down Krokgar and survive the rest of the hits. And I think, yeah, at the end there, it had the Chameleon Skinks and that Skink Chief both kited away, focusing all of their shots onto Lokir. They could have used those Cold One Knights that, the Cold One Riders that came back to deal with those spears, and they may have had enough ammunition to finish off Lokir. But having them waste their ammo on those Dread Spears just wasn't quite worth it, in my opinion. Though Catan played that very well by keeping his Dread Spears very close to those Chameleon Skinks and then keeping Lokir out of range. So that was very well played by Catan there. And let's take a look at the damage for the rest of the forces, where we had Lokir racking up almost 2,800. Sorceress of Fire doing quite well. Would have done even better, but very nice Hand of the Gods by Krokgar, able to really shut down that Sorceress, nuking the last of her HP. Skink Chief more than paying for itself, getting a 950. Otherwise, rest of the Skinks just going to be there, providing a little bit of support. But yeah, the Red Cohort of Sotek doing quite well indeed, having some nice Unbreakable. I mean, they traded exceptionally well into all of the Dread Spears. Dread Spears really weren't able to do a whole lot of damage, only slowly whittling them down. Cold One Riders, very unfortunate themselves. And then, I mean, Chameleons, of course, doing quite well. And then Bastiladons doing decent, but they had to be so cautious in that late game because of the damage they took from these Shades. The Shades just racking up the value. Just a few volleys was all it took to rout off those Solar Bastiladons, and they did quite well with that. Even the Scourge Runner Chariots getting quite a bit of nice value. But in the end, it was Lokir Felheart of Karond who was able to carry the day for the Dark Elves, and he will be treating himself to the loot of Lustria as a result. Well, that is all I'm going to have for you all today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.